sad that this is our last regular season CFP ranking?
I wasn't, but but now I am. Thank you for that.
I never thought I've never, that's as long as you've been since I've ever stumped you. So it's good to be back with you, Yogi Roth. I'm Ashley Adamson. Hello, everyone on YouTube. Great to see all of you. And please, as always, leave a note in the chat. Tell us what you're thinking, how you're feeling. I am sorry that I missed you last week, Yogs.
Yeah, well, we missed you. I had to carry it alone. Went back to the old days, you know,
You
when
did
you're
a
just
fine
trying to
job. You did a fine job, my friend.
step up when you have to. Kind of like the committee. Looking forward to them stepping up when they have to over the next 2 weeks.
They stepped up. Okay, we got a lot to talk about. Let's start right there because this new CFP rankings did come out, and we do have. I should also say for those of you who've been living under a rock, we do have half of the Pac-12 championship games set for Vegas. We know the Washington Huskies will be there, and either Oregon or Arizona will be joining them. We'll get to those scenarios in a bit and go through it. But let's start with the CFP rankings, Yogs, and finally some movement for the undefeated Dogs. 4 teams ranked in the top 16. The top 3 remain the same: Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, 1 through 3. But Washington moves up a spot to number 4, passing Florida State, who drops to number 5. So, Yogs, as we look at these, Oregon stays at 6, Arizona moves up to 15, and Oregon State drops to 16. Let's start with, obviously, the biggest storyline, which is the Huskies moving up. Did they move up far enough?
No, not at all. But we've kind of been on that same refrain every week. I think if you're a UW fan, like you're in a great position because as long as you win in your rivalry game and Oregon wins in their rivalry game, you're going to play one of the top 6 teams in America, and you're going to move up from 4 if you win, I believe. I think they'll just continue to climb. We know Ohio State and Michigan play one another this weekend, so that team is out. So, like in a clean world where like conference champions win, we're probably favored in their conference championship games, like Georgia over Alabama. We'll see what happens with the Florida State situation with their quarterback. Just gruesome, and send a ton of love to that young man. But overall, UW fans, you're good when we project this thing out if you can handle business. But I do have a bunch of bones to pick with the committee with where they sit. Because when you look at the 2 teams ranked higher than them in Ohio State and Michigan, we'll get to Georgia, but you look at those 2 teams, Ash, I understand the historical reference. I understand at times they have played incredibly impressive football. But when you look at their opponents and what they've done to those opponents, I don't think it's anywhere near what Washington has done. I don't think it's really close. You look at the November UW has had, not comparable to Michigan's November, not comparable to Ohio State's November. It's just not. Ohio State and Michigan, let's just go with Michigan. They played one ranked team and it was on the road at Penn State. Nice job, but that's their only win over a team that has a winning record in conference play. Their only win. So, like, when have they been tested? I get they've been tested off the field. They've been tested with Michigan against the world, whatever you want, however you want to spin that based on if you're cheering for Michigan or not. But bottom line, they haven't been. Yes, they've drilled everybody, but they haven't been tested by anybody other than Penn State, who has a winning record. I go to Ohio State, and they have looked the part on both sides of the field, offense, defense, but it hasn't really been consistent against an elite team. Go look at the Notre Dame game. I'm calling Notre Dame this weekend, so obviously been studying them more than I traditionally would. And just a reminder, I'm sorry, ND fans, but you didn't have 11 guys on the field for the last 2 plays of the game. Like, very easily, Notre Dame could have won that game. Now, nice drive to win it late for Ohio State, give them that credit. But as I study Notre Dame, they're not a top 10 team right now from a personnel standpoint and execution. With you look at the losses they have. So I don't think that's like a dramatically impressive win this season. I think it's impressive in the context of football, and it was a great finish. But I just haven't seen complete wins from either one of those teams against really talented teams. And we've frankly seen that. And we saw it last weekend. So to go on the road against Oregon State, a team that was a top 10 team. I think they sat at 11 in the CFP last week, 10 in the AP. To do what they did defensively, they held Oregon State to a season low in points, total yards, passing yards, third down percentage. Yes, it's in the rain, but those 2 teams are used to playing in the rain. They still have the number 1 passing offense in America. You got a guy who's going to book his trip to New York City in the Heisman. I voted for Roma Dunze as a finalist in the Blitnikoff Award. So they have elite playmakers. I just think that what they've done and how they've done it as of late, if you're going to look just at last week, should have taken them to 4, no problem. But how about 3? How about 2? And that's my soapbox for the A block of this
I love it.
YouTube
I'm here
series.
for it. I'm I'm here for it. Don't get off that soapbox, Yogs. And I think, I mean, the good thing is, and you may mention this, but the Buckeyes and Wolverines, they play each other Saturday in Ann Arbor. So that will, on some level, take care of itself. And then, we'll see what happens in the Big Ten championship. I think Utah falling out of the top 25 after losing to Arizona is significant because, okay, so they're 7-4, right? And they'll play Colorado to close out the regular season on Saturday. And maybe it's not worth here spending time on getting into the nitty gritty of like why Utah might be the best 4-loss team. But I think it is worth pointing out to everyone that all 4 of Utah's losses are to teams ranked in the top 16 of the CFP. All 4. So for those 4 fan bases, Oregon, Washington, Oregon State, and Arizona, Utah dropping out should matter to you because that's one fewer ranked win that your team has on their resume. So I thought that was a significant thing that's not worth glossing over either.
No, look, let's just be real about it. Florida's been smashed, or excuse me, Tennessee's been smashed the last couple games. I mean, just absolutely dominated. What has Utah done? I mean, you go and you look at the UW game, it was a battle. I get what happened at home against Oregon, fair. And yes, they've been decimated from an injury standpoint. Let's remember that their athletic director, Mark Harlan, is a member of the committee, usually has to recuse himself when they're talking about Utah, but everybody knows what Utah has gone through, I'd imagine, in that room. And to see where Tennessee sat just shocked me. I mean, there's 4 teams in America that have played 11 Power 5 teams. None of them are in the AC or the SEC. Just heads up. Remember 8 conference games, that whole thing they do there, get right game usually for most of them week 11. I just say that that shocked me. I mean, that had me sitting back and saying, for the first time this year, I really want to question what the committee said they saw, because you saw a team miss tackles. You saw a team not look the way that a top 25 team should look. And Utah, I called the game over the weekend. I get, if you just look at the score at the end of the first quarter, you're saying, what is going on here? And you're right. It was one of those bang, bang, bang. Everything that could have gone did go wrong. Punt block, just explosive trick plays down your, I think, best player at every layer of their defense, Jonah Ellis. He's going to be done for the season. He'll be the first team all-league edge rusher. Karenni Reed, linebacker, and Cole Bishop. If those 3 guys play, I think it's a closer game. And if it's a closer game, they might still be ranked. But it wasn't. But it wasn't what Tennessee was. Let's just remind all of our friends in Tennessee. You lose 38-10, it's not close. You lose 36-7 against Missouri the week before. And you had your get-right game against our friend Jim Mora the week before that in UConn. Like, you just haven't had the gauntlet to the point. And the SEC hasn't been the gauntlet. And I know we'll get into it because we're going to talk Oregon and 1-loss teams, but it's fair to look at the truth of what this year is. And that league is nowhere near what it was. Preseason, Tennessee was like USC, rolling. Everybody's darling. Here we go, Joe Milton and this team, what they did a year ago. But the reality is they've gotten drilled the last 2 games. They absolutely drilled. Utah went on the road and it was tight against UW. And then they lose on the road against Arizona. So that one shocked me. And it's valuable because the teams that are ranked ahead of them all beat them. They all beat them, to your point of who their losses are against. So I hope the committee revisits that. I hope they were sitting at 26 because I'd take them against Liberty every single time, healthy, not healthy, in that ballgame. I take them against a lot of the teams ranked ahead of them. So we'll see. But this is a big weekend. And I think they win against Colorado and hopefully find themselves in the top 25 because we're going to get in this dialogue of resume and et cetera, especially if Oregon can run the table. But overall, this is a quality team, and I hope the committee continues to represent that if they can get a win this weekend.
Well, let's talk about Oregon because you mentioned them as a 1-loss team, obviously, and they, I know people hate this phrase, but control their destiny. They're in the driver's seat, however you want to say it. If they win against the Beavs at Autzen on Friday night, they will be playing Washington for a rematch of that terrific regular season showdown in Seattle. They'll be facing them in Vegas. So if I'm an Oregon fan, how am I feeling right now?
I think you're feeling okay. I think if you win out, you got a really strong chance of getting into the playoff. The challenging situation would arise if Texas can win out. Right? They got Texas Tech this weekend. If you're a Duck fan, you're cheering for Texas Tech, and you know what that environment was like in week 2 when you went down there, and the most raucous crowd that place has been in over a decade. Tortillas flying all over the place, and game-winning drive from Bo Nix. Early season, but a moment worthy in his Heisman campaign as he'll be another guy finding his way to New York City. So I think that's kind of Could chaos ensue? I do believe, and Kirk Herbstreit said it in the telecast moments ago, where when you watch them, you could put resumes up. They had a nice graphic of strength of record, which Oregon sits top 10, strength of schedule. They are not. And their key wins are, you don't have a ranked win now because SC wasn't top 25 when they played them. Utah was, but neither one of them sit there today. To that point, I do think there's something to, if you watched everybody play over the weekend, I think Georgia and Oregon have looked the best. They've looked the most complete among everybody in America. And when you look at Oregon all season long, Texas Tech was that moment where that offensive line struggled. I think 5 false starts, 14 overall penalties since that game, nowhere near that number. They've played much more consistent. I think the offensive line is the most improved group in the country. They're up for the Joe Moore Award, which is given to the best offensive line in the country. Will Stein is a finalist for the Broyles Award, given to the top coordinator in the country. I think they're in a really good spot, Ash, because I think when you watch them, and I'd imagine when the committee watch them, say, yep, offensive line elite, running back elite, quarterback might win the Heisman. Receiver, Troy Franklin, I gave him one of my votes as a finalist for the Blitnikoff Award. They have other weapons. We saw what Patrick Herbert did over the weekend in the work against Arizona State. Defensively, they are as physical as any front seven in the country. And they're as veteran-laden. They've got third-year players. They've got seventh-year players. And here comes Mateo Uyunglele, the true freshman, who will play, of course, against his brother this weekend. They've got everything there. And the back end will be healthy. Let's not forget, against SC, both corners are out in the second half. And they're going to be at full strength this weekend and expect them to be at full strength if they can make it to a title game. So I think they're in a good position. I think they're in such a good position that if it's a tight game and both of those teams, Washington remains undefeated and they play an Oregon team that has one loss. If it's a tight game and Oregon wins, I think we need to have the discussion, and we've had it. We get to present to the committee. Jim Thornby, myself, our commissioner, Merton Hanks, we present to the committee about how talented those two teams are. And if there is some more chaos, right? Let's just say Georgia wins and they're in, but we have some chaos in the other Power 5 leagues. We need to be talking realistically about Oregon and Washington, 2 of the best 4 teams in America.
That'd be a hell of a way to end the Pac-12 drought.
It's the only way. It's the poetic way.
It would
the
be
poetic. Let's go out in style. You and I.
Bang, baby.
We'll go to the Rose Bowl. I want the Rose Bowl. You could head out to I think it's the Sugar Bowl, right? Because I doubt they'll play each other. Let's hope that doesn't happen in the semifinal. And then we party in Houston.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, no, it would be poetic. And Boo Corrigan, the chair of the committee, he did say in the interview afterwards, he said, watching games does matter. When he was asked about why Washington jumped Florida State, was it because of the Jordan Travis injury? And he said, no, it's you watch the games, and that is a big part of the puzzle piece. And it's not just resume. So a lot to go into it. And again, we'll find out, we'll know a lot more when we're doing this in a week.
Let me say one more thing. Sorry, let me just say one more thing, because I want to make this point to our friends in the Big Ten, is that the loser of Ohio State and Michigan should be done. Should just be out. We saw what happened a year ago, and I get it with Ohio State and how talented they were with CJ Stroud, but neither one of these teams, to me, even if it's an elite game and a historical game and it's a walk-off field goal, the loser should not be in the top 4. Because we're looking at a world now with all these teams at the top, Ash, where there's going to be conference champions that sit there, or there's going to be a one-loss team that played in a conference championship. So love what those programs have done historically in college football, but this year, no way. Like it is a full-on play-in game Saturday in that rivalry. You
got to win that game if you are one of those teams and you want to be in. Yeah,
then you're playing Iowa.
And otherwise, you're looking at you're penalizing a team that played in a conference championship game.
Yeah, and I do want to say this because without you last week, we went really hard on the committee on where they sat Iowa. Nice job, committee, on flipping Arizona and Iowa, because they're 2 different teams.
See, maybe you're more powerful when I'm not here.
I don't know if I'm ever powerful. Ask my kids. I got zero juice right now.
Not true. If you're juiceless, you're useless, and you are not useless, Yogi Roth. Okay, so let's talk about this football championship scenario, because I think most people know. Obviously, we mentioned it. Washington, they are in after beating Oregon State. A win, by the way, over the Cougs on Saturday. If they can go undefeated, it would make them the only team in the Pac-12 era to go 9-0 in league play. The last team to go undefeated in league play was before expansion. The 2010 Chip Kelly and Nick Aliotti Oregon Ducks ran the table. So hat tip to Kalen DeBoer, man, and that squad, and Michael Penix. It hasn't always been perfect, but they have done the thing that matters, which is win games. So It's been impressive. It's been fun to watch, and I think it'll be fun to watch them on Saturday night. And then whoever they get, either Oregon or Arizona. Oregon wins and they're in. Arizona, they'll know before they kick off against ASU on Saturday whether or not they're playing for a right to go to Vegas, which I don't know if you look at that one way or the other. Maybe it's good that they know or don't know. But the fact that they're just in the conversation on the final weekend, Jedd Fisch and what he's done in 3 years is really remarkable. And now, whether or not they're playing in Vegas or not, they're on the verge of having a 10-win season after winning one game his first year.
It's a brilliant rebuild, and it's different than all the ones we've seen, right? It's different than what Oregon State had to do with Jonathan Smith, because it just took some time. The way they have done it and the style in which they've done it is something we haven't seen in a while. Let's remember, Jedd Fisch was hired and Kevin Sumlin's recruiting class was already signed, right? So he didn't really even get a class. So they call year one, year zero, as you know, in Tucson, because it was such a challenge. And in year zero or year one, they were within a score entering the fourth quarter in 8 games. And they played 5 quarterbacks that year. And then they signed that next class that is full of players like Jonah Coleman, Noah Fafita, Tetaroa McMillan, Jacob Manu, both of their corners, Takario Davis and Ephesians Prysock, who stand at 6'4". Like they just built the nucleus, and then they supplemented in the transfer portal. That's specifically on the defensive front. Bill Norton continues to have an impact, and I just think this is a team that is playing not just complementary football at a high level. I mean, they're like 51-49 run pass for the most part. Most teams aren't that, right? Most teams are throwing it dramatically more. Jedd Fisch comes for, he's known for quarterbacks and throwing the football, but they have won at the line of scrimmage. And this unit, I was a little disappointed that they weren't on the Joe Moore Award as a finalist on the offensive line, because the best offensive line I've seen in 20 years covering Arizona football. And they've got a first rounder in Jordan Morgan, and not like the first rounder that everybody says they have on every team, like a legit, everyone I talk to NFL scouts, that guy's going to get picked. And Jonah Savanaya on the other side. And they're just really impressive in that regard. So if they can get some help and get to Vegas and get a rematch, why not? 3 years in a row, we've had rematches in the champ game now. Don't be shocked if Arizona makes it really challenging on UW and gets a win. We called that game the first time. The score to me didn't indicate really the totality of the game. I thought Washington was in control the entirety of the game. They fumble inside the 10. Kind of changes the complexion of it, but UW is a different team, or excuse me, Arizona is a different team now. At halftime of that game, that team went in the locker room and told the coaching staff, like, hey, we don't have to play safe. Let's go attack these guys. Let's go play press man coverage at corner. Let's run the football on the offensive line. And then they went and lost to SC in triple overtime, and they came out saying, yeah, we can handle big stages. And I think we've just seen the confidence grow, Ash, for this team. And Jedd Fisch will get a ton of votes for Coach of the Year. He will continue to gain attention for all the Arizona Wildcat fans out there. Schools will continue to see if his agent or he is interested in other openings. That's just the world you're in right now. And that's a great world to be in.
Yeah, you want that.
You want that. He's happy, and it pains me to say this, but next year when they go to the Big 12, them and Utah are going to be the favorites. And I'd pick Arizona today because I haven't seen what Cam Rising can do yet, and how he moves and how he's recovered, or who else is coming back. So this program is positioned next year in expanded playoff to take a real run at a playoff berth. Like, that is a legit thought. And if you said that when it was the billboard on the side of the freeway after they lost in the pandemic to their bitter rival, I would have said, no way. Within the next 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, they're going to a playoff. And they got a chance. And if they can get some help, they got a chance to go to New Year's Six Bowl.
You mentioned Jedd Fisch getting a lot of attention. I think it's worth pointing out Johnny Nanson's second year as the defensive coordinator and what that defense has done in year 2 and the step that they have taken. Obviously, they've got more talent, but it is impressive. They're giving up half as many yards, half as many points as they were a year ago. So if you're talking about Broyles Award semifinalists, should have been a finalist.
Mm-hmm. Should have been a finalist, or whatever it is now. Like, he should be in the latest group. He didn't make that. But you're exactly right. And look at their staff. And I can remember when we were at SC, everybody was it was like a launching pad for coaches to get other jobs, whether it was Nick Holt got the head coaching job at Idaho, Lane, Sark, their path extremely well, Norm Chow, like everybody launched out of there. That's kind of what's happening a little bit at Arizona. You look at Brennan Carroll, he's in play and rumored for a lot of these jobs. You look at Johnny Nansen, Jimmy Doherty. I mean, these are all guys that are getting interest to become head coaches. And this thing's going to happen fast with the transfer portal, Portalpalooza, coming in about 2 weeks here in early December, where coaches need to have their roster, or at least their game plan, relatively solidified. So it'll be something to track. But I think that program is in such a healthy place. And if the Pac-12 was going to remain the Pac-12 heading into next year, if a miracle happened, Ash, you'd be talking about Arizona as a real threat to win this league. And they find themselves kind of on, they're right outside the doorstep. Like, they're trying to get into the club. They got a couple tickets. They got some passes. They're not sure if they want to let anybody else in. They're kind of at capacity. They might find their way into Vegas. And that would be a fun Friday night for you and I if that happened to be on a different level, because it'd be different storylines than, of course, if it was Oregon and Washington. We're talking about one, if not two teams in the CFP.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I think it's wild to think again. So they beat ASU on Saturday, and they, even if they don't get to Vegas and can win a bowl game, it's a 10-win season. And if you had told me before we started the year that the team in Tucson could potentially have 10 wins, and we'd be talking about the team in LA having 7 wins. I mean, I think now that USC's regular season is officially over and they fall to UCLA, in a game that I'm sure was disappointing as hell for every Trojan fan and for people who love Caleb Williams. There was so much hype and excitement coming into year 2 under Lincoln Riley, and all that talent that they brought back, and the reigning Heisman winner and all the rest. Where do you, just a quick thought on kind of where you see that program right now, Yogs?
Yeah, well, this year, I mean, living in LA, it's dramatically disappointing. You can imagine, or you've read or seen the criticism that has been bestowed upon this program, especially after the weekend that was, where they were really dominating the game against UCLA, where there was a lot of rumors about Chip Kelly, and his team came out and dominated that game on the road, start to finish at the Collie. And I'll say this, coming into the season in the year that this was, to me, they weren't Oregon, Washington. I had Oregon State ahead of them, didn't know what to make of Utah, and I thought Arizona would be that sleeper. With that said, they didn't give them credit. Like, there were some really tight losses, right? Washington, Utah could have gone either way. But you have to say the same thing about Cal. And if Colorado had another drive, like, it could have gone either way. So overall, a disappointing season for them. I also think that it's going to be really fascinating to watch how they build this thing, because it wasn't what Kalen DeBoer or Dan Lanning inherited. That is fair. Lincoln Riley said that many times. Their best players have come from the transfer portal. When you look at those teams, I get it, quarterback, what Michael Penix Jr. and Bo Nix are, transfers quarterbacks. But the rest of that team recruited out of high school. Offensive line, among both of those teams, only one transfer starting, and that's a Johnny Cornelius at right tackle for Oregon. Defensive front, very few transfers for either team. One, Jordan Birch, when you're looking at Oregon in the front 7, and Justin Jacobs starting to play the last couple weeks at linebacker. But for the most part, they came through high school. And I just think that while there were coaching changes, they were already that caliber of a player. And I think SC, from a talent perspective, they're just a notch below. Yes, they've got really talented rosters, and there's a lot of rosters in this league and around the country that say, give me those guys. I get all that. But when you look at the comparison of the best teams in this league, I don't think they were there. So it'll be fascinating to see who they hire as a defensive coordinator. It's been fascinating to watch Los Angeles flip on a dime. But that's LA. They go win. Was it LSU? I think that's who they open up with. They got a challenging opener next year. They get a win, they'll be just fine. But at the end of the day, Ash, the truth is that in this league's final year, when you look at Los Angeles and both of those schools, there's one combined Pac-12 title. And it was Sam Darnold and Clay Helton that won it for USC. That's just a fact. So I think a lot of times the hype outweighs reality when you look at the facts over the last 12 years in this league. And that's something that USC has dealt with. And I don't think the fan base wants to acknowledge that often, because they think they should be winning it every year because of Caleb and Lincoln and the 11-1 record last year prior to the title game. And then, of course, the bowl game collapse against Tulane.
Yeah, I can't add anything to that. It's perfectly said. The only reason I was laughing in the middle of that amazing soliloquy, Yogi, is that I just don't know where you keep all of this in your brain. Like, how do you, where does it, your brain is different than mine, because I can't remember my own kids' names sometimes.
Well,
so. I just appreciate
I almost said something I would have regretted, but it's like Dion, where it's like, thank you, God, for telling me not to say that. But I almost went to, like, I'm lucky I can remember, like, my kids' teachers' names half the time, or like the parents of, like, our friends, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's all in there.
But you got a lot of stuff in there.
Yeah,
it's why, and you know Mount Rushmore is not in LA, right?
I've heard of that. Yeah, I've heard of that. Don't know if I could spell it properly. But hey, that's why
Uh,
like you and me and Josh Ish and Jim Thornby, we're always just on the phone, we're texting. It's just constant all the way till the end. All the way till the end.
all the way till the end, baby. Lean at the tape. Lean at the
Yeah,
tape.
there we go.
Which we will do right now
Jackson
because we've
Powers
gone way
Johnson
over.
leaning at the tape. Did you see that? Against
What?
Arizona State, Jackson Powers Johnson leaning at the goal line. Big man. Love that.
Let's go. Yeah. I love any track reference, I'm going to enjoy.
Yeah, well, you are the only Hall of Famer on this YouTube video right
Thank
here.
you. I just wanted you to bring that up again. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know that we have gone way over the time that we were allotted to do this. So we will get some final thoughts and say goodbye and bid everyone farewell, and we'll see you next week. But remind everyone that our pregame coverage for week 13 starts at 11 a.m. Pacific from Tempe. I'll be there for the Territorial Cup. Looking forward to that. We've got Colorado and Utah at noon, and then you're calling Stanford Notre Dame. You mentioned earlier, but you've got Stanford Notre Dame on the farm, and that will be the final football game on the Pac-12 network. It seems, again, kind of poetic that the Irish somehow are involved in our last game, one of the biggest brands in the history of college football. But how are A, how's the prep, and B, how are the emotions heading into your final game, at least in this iteration of the Pac-12?
Yeah, well, I think the prep has been amazing. Got a head start on it. Studying Notre Dame has been a blast. They're a national brand. You're always tracking them from afar anyway. Talked to some people that are just dialed into the program earlier this week. So a big shout out to all of them out there that have helped me out with the prep, but also just watching film and seeing who these teams are, getting into their personnel, get to talk to their staff in the morning. They've been nothing but professional. And that's exactly what we're going to be on Saturday. Can't wait to call it with my longtime partner, Ted Robinson, who's a Notre Dame grad, who's had a rich history within that institution, as has his wife, Mary. Our crew couldn't be more excited and proud of the year we've had. We've leaned into the games and the stories versus the internet and rumors or facts that have happened in the past that we can't control or change. I'll say this, the one constant of every school, I wonder if you'd agree, Ash, that I've been at, but I haven't met one president, AD, coach, player that isn't remorseful or saddened by what's happening. While we can't change it, it is something that will come to reality. But we'll lean into the last game and we'll kill it. We'll have an absolute blast. I hope there's a crowd. I hope they show up. I'm gonna bring my family to it. So we'll lean into all the good stuff, and then I'll just call you afterwards, and all the emotions I have, I'll just dump them on you. Post game.
I'm just gonna hit live on this YouTube thread, and then we'll just.
How about you? What do you think? How are you feeling heading into
I think same way. I mean,
game?
it's been a gift, and we've talked about this before we started the season. It's been a gift in some ways, as heartbreaking as it is that the conference as we know it is ending, to have had this season, knowing that it's the last one. And it was an amazing, we can probably get into more of the nostalgia next week, but it's just been amazing to go to every single campus and be with these people who have become like family to us over the last, nearly 12 years. So I feel really grateful that we knew a lot of times in this business when, the lights go off, or things come to an end, it's like tomorrow your key card stops working and it's goodbye, see you later. So it's been emotional, certainly, but I do feel like there's been sort of this wonderful, kind of last dance, last lap, being able to see people who we care about. And to your point, everyone has been absolutely terrific to us, fans, coaches, ADs, student athletes, like all the support staff on all these campuses. They've been nothing but just first class and wonderful. And everyone feels sad about it. And everybody obviously did what they felt like they needed to do. And we're not here to talk about any of those decisions, but just, I think there is a sadness and a nostalgia for what's happening here at the end. So as you said earlier, I mean, let's send two teams to the playoff and win a natty.
Yeah, send three Pac-12 players at one time in their life to the Heisman. How fun would that be? Jaden Daniels, Bowen, and Penix. Why not?
Why not?
You did nail one thing that continues to come up for me is like the fans have just been awesome.
They have been.
Right? I mean, you've probably taken more selfies with a fan in the last 12 weeks than like you do with your kids.
And you know what? Every time it's this. It's every time it's oh, Ashley, can we take a picture? Can we take a picture? Do you know Yogi Roth? Can you tell Yogi I said hi? Every time. It's just they're like excited to be close to me because it means that they're sort of close to you. But no, shout out to the fans because you guys have been amazing. There was a guy at Oregon State who, just thinking about it, brings a smile to my face. He stayed like 30 minutes afterwards. He was getting kicked out, yelled at by the security guards, but he stayed until we were done with our show so that he could yell down to us and say, I just want to thank you guys. We are going to miss you so much. We love you. Thank you for the coverage. And it's stuff like that really matters and makes a difference. And we've been really lucky to be a part of this thing for as long as we have. So again, I'm sure there will be a final wrap up. We can share some of this stuff, but I really genuinely just feel grateful right now. There's some sadness, of course, but it's mostly just gratitude is what I feel at this point. So
That's good. That's great. I mean, look, we've been on the same note all year. Let's not miss a moment, because we got a long time and a long life to, say whatever we want about what happened, but let's not miss a game. Let's not miss a trip to a campus. Let's not miss an interaction with a fan. Let's not miss an opportunity to sign up for Fubo TV if you're a Notre Dame fan.
I was just going to say, you stole it. And to that point, Notre Dame fans, Fubo TV.
Come on.
You can find us. Don't say that you can't
it's a
find
free
us.
trial.
I've already been getting so many, my whole family went to Notre Dame. So I'm already getting the like, where are we? How, what? Do you have a login? I'm like, dude, I just send him the Fubo link.
Yeah, no, I love it. Yeah, we need to get your father on the post game show or something like that. I mean, he's like my Notre Dame insider. It's been a blast talking to him.
Just be careful, because now that he has your number, he's going to be sending you texts all game.
Oh, thanks, Gary. I love it.
All right, Yogs, you're the best. Shout out to Josh and Kai and Jim and everybody behind the scenes who helps make this all happen. Enjoy the farm with the family. Enjoy your Thanksgiving. I'm sure you've got some pies already in the works.
I'm working on it. I'm going Halloween pumpkins. They're not going to go to waste around here. So
you're going to use the pumpkins from home for your pumpkin pie. Look
at
you're so green. That's so green, team of you.
Yeah, well, I'm not wearing shoes right now. I mean, grounding at all times. Yeah. Good luck to you too. I know you got a big crew coming through.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there. Hope it's filled with a lot of pumpkin pie and laughter and friends and family, and some good football coming your way this weekend.